hold the shutters when the siren takes its second breath. My hands find the cold ribs of the emergency slab and lock there. It's heavier than headstones. My nails leave little crescents in the frost, the red hazard light sliding from eye to eye to eye like a patient knife. My ration chit sticks to my lip. I do not spit it out. Someone behind me coughs metal dust. Someone says, "Shut, shut, shut," and the slab finishes its slow mind. Minutes hunch, scrape, and spill over each other. The floor leans in small, mean tilts. We brace and reform the way the line reforms. We stand in it because standing is safest. The door seals with a kiss, one of those damp ones the old bolts make. I keep my shoulder against the seam because I was near enough to be near. The others wedge their bags and elbows and knees around me in a tired jigsaw, and the slab breathes back at us, a cold hunger through its rust. I add my weight. I am a small weight. I have carted spools heavier than this door, but spools do not have 1,000 fingers on the other side. I do not look at the mural. The emperor's painted hand is half flaked to bare wall, and it makes my chest tight if I look too long. I look instead at the floor, at the little saint tokens fallen under the grates. Tin faces hammered thin until they can cut. I keep my heel on one so it doesn't slide and make someone fall. The siren alchemizes sound. It takes the word safe and squeezes it until only S remains, and then that hiss grows and tries to fill the world. We remember to sing because song can stand up to sirens sometimes. It comes in thin, hungry threads. Saint Drasus preserve, Saint Halessa guide, and the God Emperor hold, words like walking sticks in a river. A child pushes their hand under my arm and holds onto the edge of my coat. I do not look down. If I look down, I will see a face, and if there is a face, it will stay with me. My neck burns with breath that is not mine. The sweat under my hat freezes and warms and freezes again in bands. I can feel each band by touch alone now. I learned that in the last drill. I learned which pipes are hot when the promise of water is false. I learned the crawling points where vermin hide when the lights go to bones and voices are prayer or thin as prayer. Through the seam of the slab, a strip of hallway glows like an eyelid. Boots thud past. The boots know where they go. Someone outside screams, not from fear but from instruction. Words like move and this way and priority flesh. And those words have edges. They cut me a little on the way in. I keep the chit between my teeth until my jaw aches, then I swallow it into my cheek and let my lips close over it like an oyster. It is mine. I am not supposed to have two, but I have two, and I will not be searched here. The habit is old as the line. I do not chew it. If I bite through the paper, they will see the purple stain at my lip later. I will not give that much of myself to a stamp. I count. I count the breaths between the siren's longer notes because the longer notes match the emergency pumps because the emergency pumps used to be above my berth, and if they are not pumping right, they will cough. All machines of our block have names made of coughs. I can tell the state of the lift by the anger of its chain alone. I can tell if the water is honest by how it sucks my teeth. And the water is never honest. When the shakes come, they do not announce themselves. They simply make the world drip and then run. The slab hums like a monstrance. The floor pushes up into my knees and tries to snap them backward, and I let it rock me. I never fight it because the floor will win. Dust blows from the corners in a gray breath. It is warmer than air and tastes like the inside of the machine when the machine cuts bone. The light fails and wakes and fails. Each time there is darkness, 100 bodies adjust themselves and the dark rustles. I think of extras I can afford to forget. The spoon I keep in my boot. The little picture scratched in soot on the underside of my sleeping shelf. The name of the man in 3 West who smells like copper. I set them near the edge of myself, ready to sweep them off if my balance needs them. But I keep the names of the rest tight in the cupboard behind my teeth. Bass, Joe, Ma. I do not say them, but I can feel them under my tongue. heavy and honest as stones. When the first little shot happens somewhere far above one of those needle plink-plinks, a murmur moves through us as if it were a fluid. We do not look up. We know better than to look for what is not ours. We look for what we can touch. We reach for each other's sleeves and the seam of the slab. We rehearse the way we die, but not the end. We rehearse the elbows and the feet. "Back," says someone in a coat that had white once. "Give me your number." I make only the sound of breath. I do not offer my number to anyone whose badge I cannot smell. The coat does not smell like oil or ink or paste. It smells like outside and a little like sugar. And I do not trust that I have never trusted sweetness unless it came out of a wrapper with a gear on it. "Back," the coat says again, and pushes with fingers. I flex my shoulder. I make the slab part of my ribs. The coat's fingers find bone and the pressure fails and the coat moves on. Quick, quick. It rattles a paper and says, "Priority, priority to the air." The air does not give it room. The air listens to the siren. Somewhere in the maze of the floor, the venting begins. The vents take their breath and then exhale. It is hot and smells of tang. Someone sobs, coughing, scared by the smell because we remember what that smell held last year. We do not speak the word for it. We have our own word anyway. It is not the one the Guardsmen used when they came with masks. It is when they told us to keep tongues pressed to roofs of mouths and hold cloth to faces. None of us held cloth to faces. We had other uses for cloth than to ruin it with panic. The boots change their song outside the slab. They clatter into a running frequency that says the body above the boots is not in charge of itself anymore. A woman starts to pray too fast and chokes on her "Amen." I feel the child's hand tighten. I slide my hand down, find their wrist under fabric. It is corded, small as binding twine. "Hold," I say, because that is the only thing I know to say that can be done. My voice sounds like a tool scraping concrete. That is fine. I am a tool today. Tools live until they break it as people who are not allowed to last. We are meant to wait here until the lights climb and the vox sings the all clear. The vox never sings, it croaks and whistles like the old men by the sump after evening assembly. But the word comes through always, dragged like a net through the static. We have learned from that too. We can pull meaning up by its hair when it tries to drown. More shaking. The air jumps in my throat and is pieces. Something like a hand sweeps along the outside of the slab. We hear the bolts groan. It is not a hand. I know it is not a hand because a hand is not so large, but the motion is too like a caress for it to be accident. We do not say what it is because we do not have to. If we say it, it becomes worse, like those words the medici use when something is wrong with the blood. Then comes the blow that rearranges the door and ensures the line behind me becomes wall and floor in new and useless ways. The slab holds. In bits of ceiling do not. Stone powders. The child's hand winks away from under my arm and then returns. They have thrust it deeper, up to the elbow, made a burrow in my coat. The siren cuts. The silence is obscene. Everyone gurgles a little, breathing wrong, and the only other sound is the slow ping of cooling metal. I do not unclench yet. I have survived a silence before. I know what comes into silences. It is not always the voice of safety. We wait. Someone farts and laughs. The laugh climbs the ladder of itself and breaks at the top. And then others laugh because laughing is a way to show the body how to move air. I allow a little breath to leave that I had not noticed I was keeping. The slab sweats and my palms are slick against it. I do not slip. I would rather skin myself to the bone than slip. The child speaks into my coat, his words too round to catch. I hear the shape of a maw. The word lands somewhere in me like a hot nail. I take it out. I put it on the little shelf with my extra spoon. I cannot afford it yet. We are supposed to open when the green comes. It does not come. The eye above the mechanism is blind, one red line across it like a knife wound. No hum from the cogitator. The lever is cold. The status sheet by the hinge with its clockwork of needles is all pinned to the downmost bar. The way a jaw drops. "Rotate," says someone behind me. The word comes from way back. How do they see? How do they think it is time? And yet the voice is the kind hands that lift the old from the benches, the one that folds blankets. I want to believe. Not yet, I say. My tongue is slow. The door returns my voice to me in a new shape, deeper, thinner. And the man behind me begins to spirit his kids away through his teeth, naming them under breath so he knows who to push first when the time comes. Tap, Ren, goal. I set my shoulders. The slab is the world and the hinge is a sun and dead dust is a halo. Sometime I do not have a clock. Sometime the first order comes through the wall. It shocks me so deeply that my hands jump as if stung. It is mere vox, and yet it arrives with the weight of an officer's boot. The language is thick and the voice has the chew of a far port in it. But open for transfer, it says, and then, by numbers and by arms be ready. The slab shakes its head no. Open, the voice says again. The child's hand clenches me until my muscles relearn how to read pain. We open. It is not green light. It is not permission. And it is me and two others at the wheel and the wheel cursing us, and I am ready to carry the blame into my sleep. It is spectral daylight drooling through a gap first, then entering, then flowing. It is outside smell. The way outside carries dust and hot meat and the sourness of burnt ink. It is the hallway full of moving coats like small storms. It is three people falling with the slab and me falling with them and me catching myself with my teeth and my teeth scraping the rust. I spit a thread of blood through them and the chit stays where it should be. We go out not because we are allowed, but because the slab refuses to be more than a mouth for long. The hallway is slick with everything. Boots splash. A woman in an orange cap slams a stamp pad on my hand, fast, efficient, and the pad leaves a string of violet circles up my wrist. Transfer, she says, and does not look me in the eye because there are too many eyes. She has no patience for souls. I see now that the men with masks are not the same as last time. Their masks sit too far from the face. There is a space between the flesh and the filter I do not understand until one turns his head fast, and I see the polished line of something that is not a man's jaw. He is taller than the doors. I look away on a shout from inside my body that does not pass through my mouth. The others do not look. We know how to catch only the edges of things. Those edges are plenty sharp. I turn without thinking when a medic, green cloth, real needles, thrusts a coil of tubing into my hands and says, "Hold this high." I hold it high. It pulls downward and I brace the pull. A woman on a pallet under the tube keens, making no sound, all wind. I watch the fluid creep because the fluid is honest. It goes where it must. I am its pivot. I note the smell of the woman's blood because I want to be able to find it again in the dark if I have to. It smells like coins warmed under a tongue. A man comes with a sack of marked wafers and we make our mouths take them and our throats move them down even as the meat smell rises like a tide and a second siren, lower and heavier, speaks from the stairwells. "You," says a gloved hand, not looking, hooking me with a finger without looking away from another task. Bucket line. I go because I do that. I go because obedience is the hat we wear to move between rooms. I pass metal pails full of water that lies to our skin, warm where it should be cold, tasting old. My hands turn white from the cold of the handle and then raw from the heat from the next one that isn't water. It has a float of oil on it and the oil stares at me with all the colors at once. The bucket I splash is full of small white thorns. We do not go out. The out is pale. The out has a sky raked raw by huge lights I have never owned. We stay in the corridors where the ceiling is near enough to carry on our backs if it falls. The corridor is enough of a country. It is at war with itself, pipes scored open, prayer tiles knocked off the wall and ground into paste under boots. The saint of railings loses her arm and no one mourns because we need our hands for other things. A boom walks up the building slow as a man wearing too much chain. 1, it says to the floor, 2 in the bones, 3 to the teeth, 4, my hands slip and the bucket kisses my knee bone and opens it and there is warmth. Up, the man behind me says, and I am. We tuck our limbs under what we carry and we carry it together. The men with rifles come, swapping with each other, eyes like holes burned in paper. They smell like the fog that comes out of a vent if you open it wrong and like wet leather. They shout words that have numbers in them. I learn 2 new hand signs and forget the name of the man in 3 West who smells like copper. A rifleman stops, surprised by me, but only long enough to hang 2 cases of something on my forearms as if I were a peg. He is already looking forward when the weight hits me. I stagger and step and my knee opens a little more so I can walk around the pain. We lay down in the corners when told to lay down. We stand up when told to stand, and we do not run when others run unless they are made of our shape. I grip the child's little rope of wrist with my elbow. Now I have learned to be a sleeve. We pass a cart with 3 bodies stacked on it, and the one on top says, "We do this again?" in a chewing voice, and I cannot tell if he is laughing or crying because some of his face is not there to make the shapes. The man pushing the cart says something soft like "hush now," and keeps his hands at the right angle on the handle so his wrists do not break. We count again because the next resupply window is 30, because the steel song says 20, because the pipes hiss in 6s. The building is a body that is going through this with us. I know where to put my hand on it so it does not cry out. Time takes shape around what is asked of my muscles. I fetch, carry, hold, wedge, bolt. And I do this while listening for the specific squeal that means the muffler above the water closet is going to let go. Because when it lets go, the steam will come in at face height. I know this because I saw it once. Because my friend Joe, who had a way of smiling even when his teeth were gone, stood in a room that became a mouth and then a fist. I keep one rag wet and tie it around my neck so I can make it a mouth for me when I need it. I move my chit from cheek to cheek with my tongue to stop thinking. I end in a stairwell where the air is less wrong. The stairwell is crowded with others like me who have ended where they were placed and then replaced themselves someplace else. We form lines because lines are bones, without them we are slurry. A woman hums the hymn for passing storms, but the tune will not stay still, and it slides between notes like a fish under oil. Bas finds me then, by the press of his arm to my arm. He smells like steel filings and boiled cabbage. He says my name but makes it short, just M, because there isn't time for the rest. I do not say his name because if I say his name he will have all the syllables, and then if he goes the emptiness will be too shaped. He presses something into my hand. It is a string of beads made of wire knots, and he is giving it to me because he is giving up superstition for speed. His hands are shaking and the beads travel down that shake and up into my hand and they buzz there like something with wings. I knot them around the child's wrist. Bas does not comment because he understands this is a good home for Buzz. He bumps my shoulder with his shoulder and then he is gone in a groom of other men. When I am told list, I make a list from memory of those from our corridor who were in the shelter because the one with the slate cannot write as well as he can shoot. I do this while breathing around the pain in my knee because if I stop I will sleep, and if I sleep I will not be where they need me to be, and if I am not where they need me to be I become waste. I write the names of some who are not here because I can smell the memory of them in the dust. I do not write theirs is gone. I will not give that away with my own hand. They set us to move crates from the tabernacle. Someone says holy before they say the word for the crates. The first thing you carry wears the name it came with. By the fourth, it is a shape, and your shoulders grow a mouth that eats the weight and makes it something else. A man squints under the gilt of a statue's foot and grins because sometimes the shape of weight is comic. He says careful and sets it on the floor and goes to help an old man who is trying to lift the other end of a gilt that is not his. The shock comes at an hour I do not own. If I had its outline, I would nail it to the wall and write "Do not forget" above it. We are down in the service tunnel that smells like boiled pennies and old socks. The pipe that runs above is trembling in little lizard quivers. The man who knows pipes by the taste of their steam slaps his hand to it and removes it with a cry. "Contaminant," he says without raising his voice, and touches his knuckle to his lip and it blisters. The gloved officer with the knotted voice turns to me because I am tall enough to spin the purge wheel without a stool. He does not look at me, only at the wheel. "Turn," he says, "now." "Now," Bass, I say without meaning to. Because Bass ran down this tunnel when the call came to move the children to high, and this is the right slope of the floor, and the smell of his shirt is folded in the corner of the air. "Bass," I say again, but no one hears names here. "Turn," the officer says and puts his hand on my shoulder and squeezes hard enough to ask my bones a favor. There is a grill in the lower half of the bulkhead. I did not notice it until the light hit it so that all the dust motes inside lit up and made it a galaxy. It is not big enough for a hand, and yet a hand fits. The tips of fingers press there, skin blistered. 10 little moons, and the voice on the other side is not words. It is a wet scratching and a breath, and then something like my name with its bones apart. If it is Bass, it is not Bass, as I know. If it is not Bass, it is some other I could claim, and that would be worse later. I do not pray. Prayer would get between me and the wheel. I take the wheel into my hands. It is slick. The wheel is the size of a life preserver, some old thing from before any of us were this, and it rides on the metal like it wants to be in my hands, like it came from my hands. I put my shoulder against it because my thigh is not good enough. The first quarter turn is nothing. The second is a village. The third is a planet. The fourth is me letting my body be the part that fails later. The lock snaps like a leg. The air changes, the skin of my face shrinks. Even the smell that comes through is not one I can understand. It is too many things being made clean at once. It eats regretting. It eats regret. It eats voice. The fingers at the grill drum twice the way Bass knocked on my door in 3 West when the day was too long and he needed to use my mirror because his was cracked. I make a sound then. It is between a laugh and a vomit. The fingers burn down and become points of light and then smoke and then a black smear like the brush of a wing. The officer squeezes my shoulder once, not kindly but not unkindly, and his hand leaves black salt on my coat. He says, "Good," like he would say good to a lever. He moves on. We do not wait to see what the purge makes of the men who are not Bass. We move. The world behind the wall leans into a new burn. We step around the heat like it is a puddle. A man bites his knuckles and his teeth leave square marks above the finger bones. I take the child by the scruff and hold them away from the grill because the child wants to look. I am selfish. I want to keep the child as someone who has not seen this. I fail because the child's pupils have already swallowed the light. We keep the line. We keep the pipes, the boxes, the small, stupid motions that add up to a day. I work until the floor blurs into the exact same piece of floor no matter where I walk. I drag the mop that is not a mop over blood, and it makes the blood a wider, thinner thing. I learn to step where the floor does not shout. I learn to hear at the same time what someone across the hall needs and what my own knee is trying to say about the future. I stop saying words out loud unless they have weight. Weight order words. Your weight makes men listen. Lift, I say into wrists. Brace. Now. Down. My voice goes hoarse and then finds a new note, a low one that does not belong to my throat. It belongs to the building. When the building needs you, you find a way to borrow its voice. The men in the masks pass through us like weather. One stops long enough to lay 2 fingers against my neck as if he might be measuring out a length of me for a lathe. He looks down through the lenses at me and I see myself there, small as a fly in amber. He is a scale I do not own. His hand smells of cold. He moves on and the air sucks in behind him like it is trying to be close to something that can break the world just by standing. I find Ma in a corner where the light argues with itself. She is not Ma, she is a woman whose hair was gray before this. She speaks to me in a voice that my bones register first and my ears after. Go to the ones we left, she says. On 6. 6 is water. 6 is windows. 6 is where we hung the steps when steps were in season. Go, she says, and her hand is on the air between us, a blessing that is not a touch because I am meat and she is thin. I go because she says go. The stairwell has a new pitch to it, a new slang. The handrail is hot and I burn the stripe of the bead rope into my palm through the glove. The child, still stuck to me, breathes the way a bird breathes when there is nothing left to do but flutter its heart. I will not stop. The stopping is what I do when I'm dead. I keep that for later. On 6 there is a room we never liked because it has no doors, only curtains hung on bent rods. In that room are the ones we left, even they are still in their places on the floor where the chalk marks say keep clear. Someone has arranged them with their hands folded like in the pictures, but the hands keep unfolding as if they do not know to stay. We do not look long. We look just long enough to count aloud in the same way we count good bolts when they come off the press. Counting is not disrespectful. Counting is love with corners. I take the corner of a blanket with a man who looks like he could have fixed my pipes in my childhood. He is heavier than he looks. He has a kindness in the shape of his mouth even now. He is the purged kind of heavy. The heavy that comes when the body is full of what it should never have met. We put him where the signs say to put him. There are many signs now. They are drawn in chalk and in blood and in burned rubber on the stone, and the signs sometimes argue. When they do, the stronger hand wins. That hand changes by the hour. A woman with bones made of rope and smoke gives out water in cups the color of old teeth. When it touches my tongue lurches because the water has a taste. It is not water. It tastes like the inside of the drum when they grind up rats. It tastes like the hymn for St. Spald, the one for those who drown believing in air. I drink it. The child drinks only when I tip the cup and make the rim push the lip at an angle that says now. They drink. The cup leaves a collar on their mouth like a bruise. I wipe it with a thumb. My thumb leaves a darker mark because I do not have clean left. At some point I lose my chit. I do not feel it go, and I swallow and taste paper and my mouth is empty and something slides below my breastbone that is not food, and I let it go because there are enough empties inside me now. I can make a shelf for it. We do small holy things that do not look like holy. We check the gas for children by watching the tears of the oldest because the old tear first. We walk with buckets to the end of a corridor and receive a still hot sack of meal, and we knead the meal in our fists until it makes bread it calls itself bread. We wrap the bread in the edges of our shirts and give it to mouths and do not taste. We turn our backs when the medici lifts her gown to tie one more strap around the gut of a boy who would have been tall. We wipe the tools with the good cloth. I stop saying my name to myself every hour. I say only the first letter, a scraping inside my head. and when I have to climb, or when someone says you and I must be the you who lives. Bass name sits in me like a stone. I do not take it out. I cannot look at it without seeing it with smoke on it, and if I see the smoke, I might lie down on the warm floor of 3 West and sleep among the boots and be counted among the wrapped. In the late hours, if hours are what they are, they shepherd us into the lower vaults because the upper ones begin to forget how to be rooms. I understand a little of why you can feel the forgetting in your hand if you touch a beam. The beam no longer pushes back. It yields like stale bread. The men with rifles do not speak now. They hold their mouths the way a man holds a cut hand under water to cool it. Someone tells me to keep my head down and then slaps the top of my cap to show me how, and I do not have to be told twice. The lower vaults are new old rooms with round walls and the smell of lead. The floor is painted with circles with writing around them. The writing is half washed away, and what is left says things like keep and quiet and soul. A man squats at one of the circles and works a little cog box with a crank. The box ticks and purrs, and when it misbehaves, he taps it with his nail and it remembers itself. He looks at me the way a man looks at a fly that has landed somewhere interesting. He says, "Hold this." He puts a light stick in my hand and it hums too close to the skin. "Hold still," he says, and he reaches out gleaming fingers and brushes the light across my forearm. The hum climbs into my teeth and makes them itch. "Clear," he says. "Work," he says. He stamps my card. I do not look at it. There are new stamps on it today, and it is not the card I kissed and hid when I was 16. They put us into suits. The suits are not for us and do not fit. The arm hangs where my arm does, but the length is wrong, and the glove has room for fingers that were cut off in childhood because of a fan. The hood makes its own weather. It smells of the last person to wear it. Their breath was heavy on spiced stew and fear. I tie the wrist with wire so my sweat does not pool around my knuckles. Someone laughs at the way I fix it and then makes the same knot for himself. We link cords to our belts. They give me a bag with the emblem for safe and the emblem for not safe, and I hold it and feel that both empties are heavy. We go into the crushed corridors because someone must. We go where the floor is made of glassy slag because once it was sand and then it was floor and now it is both. I put the bag where it needs to be, and I choose with my hands and my nose and the memory of how a spark smells when it catches oil. I choose slowly. The one with me is too quick. He is young by the way he trusts the world to spare him. He touches a thing that makes a small, clean sound, and then light comes up the seam of his suit like dawn. I feel heat on my side and I smell something rich. He looks at me and his face is making a question with its parts, and then his mouth is gone and the question is in the air. I hook my hand into his strap and pull because the strap is a part of my hand now. I lay him down behind a chunk of wall that is red inside like meat. The suit burns for a very long time. Someone has to tell me to move because I forget how to stand. I stand. I do not hear my knee complain anymore. That will be for later. I borrow that also. When we come back, they look at us as if we have brought them a story. We have none. We have only our fingers and the edges of our mouths, and the edges are cracked. I sit and throw up into a bucket, and I do it loudly, and then I hand the bucket to a woman who throws up into it too because sharing is still a language here. I drink a clear thing that tastes of a chemical we used to use to clean the tanks, and my belly is grateful for the lie. The medicae touches the side of my neck with glass and says a number as if she is toting up shoes. Her fingers are cold because she keeps them near the window. Someone somewhere sings something that is not a hymn. It is wrong enough that the men with guns turn their heads to listen. It is a voice like one of the gold pipes on the shrine, even when it used to work before the rats made a nest inside and then the rats burned, and now only the shell of the pipe is pipe. The note goes up, and each step it finds stairs. It has a man's shape to it and a woman's shape. It sounds like hope kneeling. I do not believe in hope. I believe in the heat in my palm from the child's wrist. But the song does something to the light and to the way the dust falls, making it fall in organized ways like a sheet. It makes the building breathe better for 3 breaths. Then the breath stops as if someone had pressed a thumb into a throat. The quiet after feels like when you climb the ladder and realize the rung did not want to be a rung anymore. Some people cry. The men with rifles set their jaws, when one of them touches the plate at his chest as if to check it still weighs. There is no more room for bodies where the chalk says bodies. We have to hang them now for a time in the net where they used to hide the contraband. The net sags and swings. It resents this use. I apologize to it in my head. The net does not answer. It has its own war with gravity. At one point, they put me in a file line for evacuation. It is not the kind of evacuation that leaves this place. It is the kind where you go down farther into the bones. The line leans and breathes like a beast. I hold the child because someone must carry someone. My arms are not mine anymore, they are part of the line. The line moves and stops, moves and stops. It is an animal with bad hips. I see through a crack in the wall that let the weather in once, a piece of the outside sky. It is not ours, it is full of fires that do not belong to the hearth. There is a shape there, bright and made of plates. It moves like a man who knows where his feet are supposed to land in any world. It is tall enough to wear the sky. It is moving with a kind of hunger that is not hunger for meat. It runs and then stands, and the world near it drops to its knees. I look for one heartbeat. I look too long. I pull my gaze back into my skull by the roots and the holes the looking made there bleed, but not with red. With something that will keep me awake too long. I take my hand and slap the beam beside me, and then I know where I am again. The line moves. We keep. When the panic comes, and it comes like a fold in a rug, sudden, ridiculous, tripping everyone at once, it does not announce itself. And a woman near the front makes a sound like she has been told to be 2 people at once. The sound carries. The line forgets that it is a spine and becomes a snake. The men with rifles put their hands up, and their hands are not enough to hold what is falling. I put my back into a corner and put the child under my arm and press my palm to a stranger's sternum and press until his heart finds a rhythm that goes with me. On me, I say to those who can hear, breathe when I breathe. Some do. Some breathe in between. The air is thin. The air has too many names. Someone knocks into my knee, and the old wound sings that new, pure note I learned in the tunnel when the wheel turned. I do not go down. If I go down, I will trip everyone who is seeing what I see, which is the edge of the world made into gray paste. On me, I say again, and then I make my nose work, and it tells me old straw and grease, and I use that to find the direction we need, away from the smell of the purges toward the smell of the scriptorium where paper dies less loudly. We get there. We do not belong there. There are books bigger than a child's chest, and in the corners are rules that do not flex, written in black on the white. The men with rifles regret allowing us to enter here because this place is for the hands that know ink and the knives it carries. But the ceiling here is stubborn, it does not want to come down today. We breathe. I sit the child on a pile of something bound in leather that is not the leather of animals I know. I rub my palms on my trousers until the sting recedes. Name, says a woman with a face like a slash. She holds a stylus as if it were a weapon. I say the first letter because the rest got lost at the wheel. She makes a sound that might be scorn. She writes anyway. She stamps my card. The stamp is heavy. It says fit for labor. It says it in purple. It amuses me a little to be owned by purple ink. I was already owned by floors and doors. It is nearly nothing left of a day. I can tell by the way the light has turned thin in the places where it is allowed to be. They are gathering salvage. They are using us to make order out of what used to be ours. They put us in teams. My team is 3 who can lift and 1 who can count, and a boy with a wheezing in his chest that keeps him from catching nails. We go through the rooms and we take what was left because it is not right to leave it to vermin. We take knives, but only the handles if the blades are broken, so nobody uppers their hands. We take cloth, but only what will wash. We take fuses and screws and broken mugs for the teeth of their handles. We leave the fine things. We do not know what to do with fine things. At the end, when my arms are more rope than arm, they send us back toward the place where the slab is, because sometimes even the slab remembers mothers. The men with the black bands on their sleeves are there. They have a list. They call numbers. I listen with the corner of my hearing. They do not call mine. They call a number like my old number, but with the last digit wrong. The woman who once wore her hair like mine steps forward. She stands as if she were at assembly before the work whistle, straight, proud. They stamp her. The stamp is different, it is black. She takes the stamp into herself like one takes a wound that should have killed you and does not. She is led away, and she does not look back, because looking back gives away the part of the self that will get you around corners. I put my back to the wall near the slab. The slab shivers once like an animal dreaming. The child sits on my boot. The child has fallen asleep and keeps sliding until my ankle bone keeps them from the floor. I adjust the beads around their wrist with my finger. The knot is good. It will not come loose even if it gets caught. I learned to tie that knot on a hand crank in the dead of hard season when the oil was thick. The knot is the only trick I will teach the child if I have to. It is the trick that kept the wheel from taking my hands back as it turned. Something down the corridor pops and whistles, and a laughter rises there that isn't for anything. And the ribbon of lights along the ceiling breathes twice and then holds. In the half-light, I can see the print my hand left on the slab, black and gray. The whorls burned flat in the middle where I pressed hardest. It looks like an eye. I press my other hand next to it and leave a second print. The 2 smears sit together, brothered. The wall is cold through the paint. I wait there, listening for the pumps, for the old cough that means the machines remember being themselves. There. Yes, the rhythm comes back like a man returning with bread under his coat. They bring a basin. It is dented and laughs water over its rim. The water is brown as teeth. I wash my hands. The black that comes off runs in thin lines. It does not leave me altogether. It will live in the cuticle and in the half-moons under nails and in the palm. And I take a scrap of fabric, a bit of shirt that had good stitching once, and I rub and rub until the fabric tears and my skin lifts. I keep rubbing. The child wakes and watches me. They take the rag gently and finish the last 2 knuckles as if it were something they were born knowing. The men with rifles are called away by something we cannot hear. Their boots leave a space behind them. The slabs hum to themselves and do not decide. Someone brings out a tin of paste and cracks it open, and the smell is terrible, and I am grateful it means food. I will get a spoon of it if I sit close enough. I sit. I keep my place by putting my foot under the child's foot and making us a chain, heel to toe. The paste goes thinly across my tongue, and its salt breaks the dried blood on my lip. The pain is praise. I swallow. I have enough of myself left to hold the child to my side when a man leans in casual as a cat to see what he can take. I have enough left to pull the rope beads between his fingers and then let go so that his fingers close on air. He laughs like an empty bottle and moves off. He will find some other thing. My chest loosens when the vox breathes a note that is not a siren. It is only a throat clearing. The officer descends, slow as a saint, off a wall. He speaks. The words say numbers and shifts in a plan that is a plan only to those with boots that do not slip. He looks past us because his eyes are for the line drawn on the slate behind us, for the chalked arrows. He says, hold for orders, hold for light, hold, and I wonder if he knows how much holding costs and if he ever had to pay. Someone asks where we will sleep, and he says where you stand, and he is not being cruel, he is giving us the gift of instruction. We lay our backs against where we are and shut our eyes as if someone had thrown a coat over us. I tuck the child under the fold of my coat and I put my hand on their head and feel the hair prick my palm. It is soot-soft. The beads bite my wrist. My knee throbs and throbs. The slab breathes, the slab is the biggest chest. Before my eyes fold together, I look down at my hands. The prints on the slab imitate them in black. The wheel's heat lives there still where the bone meets line. There is a little blister on my palm in the shape of a door. I press it with my thumb until the pain spreads out and becomes background. The pump groans twice and then finds itself. The floor sings its iron song. I keep breathing. I do not make room for anything else. And there is not room. The child's breath warms the blue of my wrist. The rag from bass knots scratches the back of my hand, and that is how I know I am here.